Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Macon. I'm the Director of Development with the National Print and Sign Owners Association. I'm thrilled to welcome you to a very special webinar today, The Ultimate Solution for Future-Ready Print Businesses, presented by XMPie. And I'm thrilled to introduce our co-host today, or Katie Fisher, who is the Regional Sales Exec at XMPie in Dallas, and Jeremiah Fogarty from Solutions Architects Lead at XMPie. Today's takeaways will be of discovering how you can unlock new revenue streams, especially more high value, profitable, repeatable work, which of course is something that we all want. Understand how to automate the production process for creating variable data print and digital files. Learn how to become integrated into your client's ecosystem. See how to increase the profitability of any job by eliminating errors, reducing costs, and saving time. And discovering how Pineapple Payments NPSOA member benefit program can help your print business enhance your payment processing while reducing your processing costs. So just a quick housekeeping item. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the chat feature, and Katie and Jeremiah will do their best to answer you. But they have both allowed some time at the end for any of your questions. So if you can hold them till the end, that would be great. But if you just need a quick clarification throughout the process, just use the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, I present XMPie.
Well, thank you, Michael. Really appreciate the introduction and the time that you've given us today. Again, my name's Katie Fisher. I will be your lead to kind of start off on this journey. And then Jeremiah is going to kind of assist me in actually doing a little bit more of a deep dive, more application-driven results into the solution. So for those of you who aren't familiar with XMPie, this is just kind of a real quick snapshot of what we do. We are a software organization, really founded about 25 years ago with the vision of creating personalization across both print and digital communications. So if you kind of look at our little triangle that we've got going on, that green section is actually where we started so long ago. And that's really where our foundation for everything that we've begun to offer over the last 25 years has grown from. So you'll see things like there when I say personalization in print, this is, we're talking about variable data print, but really kind of bringing it down to the designer level. And then also some digital touch points. So that's that cross media. So that's being able to do emails as well as personal landing pages, text messaging, videos, really kind of that full gamut there. But what we found is not just important to be able to do the personalization for mass, but also be able to do some personalization more in a self-service type manner. And that's really where that blue section comes into play for the web to print and the marketing portals. And then to tie everything together up there in red at the top is really the glue for marketing to be able to tie in not just one touch point, but be able to touch on different touch points in multi-faceted campaigns. So that's a little bit about XMPie. A little bit about kind of what I've learned probably in the last couple months. Actually went, Michael, I just mentioned a minute ago, down to Inkjet Summit in Orlando. And one of the big things that they were talking about there is, there's a lot of kind of variables that have added to our business climate that we're in now in the print industry. And you can see on the screen there's things like lack of labor, rising paper costs, logistics, that postage increases that are happening all the time. People talking about sustainability. So, even that's kind of put some pressure on things. And then of course, everybody wants it yesterday. So what's really happening is a lot of that print that really didn't need to be printed or really didn't have a high value to it now is really starting to disappear. And so we've got to be able to focus a little bit more on some of those higher value, more necessary applications in our print communications. When we talk about higher value type applications, a lot of times we're looking at things that are more personalized and more targeted. And so these are just a couple studies on the screen here. Talks a little bit about 71% of consumers expect personalization, 66 want messaging tailored toward their needs. So, kind of the more obvious stuff, right? So, people really want to be spoken to as individuals. If it's just static type collateral or marketing material, a lot of that is that unneeded stuff that eventually is going to go away. But also looking at other things here and including more digital components to that as well. So you've seen the rise in things like QR codes and people understanding how to use them and having the technology there to support them. But now we're linking print to digital, and it's become very natural to the individual consumer. When we start looking at variable print or personalized print, one of the main things is, how are we going to do it and how are we going to become efficient at it? And so I kind of take a step back and I look at when I started doing personalized print, and it was really pretty simple. I mean, you just you'd use a Word template or an InDesign template or something like that, and you kind of tie it to data, and it was pretty easy. Simple text changes, things like that. Nothing too big there. But then, as things kind of progress, then you realize, okay, maybe it's not just linking that one database to that one file. Now somebody maybe needs a logo to change inside there as well. So now my simple mail merge now has turned into something where I've got, the easiest way is probably to manage 3 different templates and 3 different datas. But that's still manageable, right? But then, we start looking at other things and other requests kind of as projects grow. And now it's, well, now I need this, this section inside this document. Maybe if they're, XYZ customer or XYZ patient inside that company, they need this particular text block versus something else. So now we're getting a little bit more unmanageable, right? We've got 4 of those that we got to swap in and out. So that's bringing us, if we did split it up, that'd be 10 data files, 10, different templates. And then you add one more in there and it just quickly grows out of control. So, you kind of look back and then you say there's got to be a better way, right? So we start looking at using software to really kind of facilitate a lot of this, and go back to managing just one template rather than multiple templates, one data source instead of multiple data sources or filtered data sources that may happen. And then allow, really the logic inside the application to change things in and out on the page as needed. So now all those little sections or text blocks needs to change with different formatting to them, all the logos, any of that needs to be variable. We can change out, and then looking at things like, dynamic barcodes and adding in other type logic elements along with it. So this brings us to the idea of having something that's more of a modern VDP platform. So being able to allow individuals to use design applications that they're used to, and then tying that logic element into it. To create some really unique, personalized, variable communication. So above and beyond kind of the little simple example I gave you with the form letter. And so when we talk about that modern VDP, the goal really is to bring this out of kind of a programmer's hands, or bring it out of managing multiple templates and giving that user unconstrained variability. So if they're wanting to change out, images or graphics or text blocks, or, maybe create different styles or colors or things like that, being able to have that ultimate flexibility to create that unique piece that's really going to be more eye-catching to the consumer. And so we tend to compare this to legacy VDP. So thinking on terms of XMPie, but not just that, there were a lot of platforms out there for variable print. And legacy type platforms required a more programmatic approach. So it wasn't really using a normal design application. It was using more of a proprietary tool or a programmer to actually program where all those little pixels go on the page and where the data ties in and what happens. And so it was a more highly skilled individual different type of individual that actually had to do those, and it took a lot more time, right? So, I couldn't react as quickly as I need to with more of a modern VDP approach. And so that leads us to XMPie. And we were really one of the first kind of players into this market, where we allowed the marketer or the designer or the pre-press person to be able to go in and really make those changes as far as creating those personalized communications. We actually work inside Adobe InDesign. So anything obviously that you could create inside InDesign, what we're doing is we're leveraging Adobe and InDesign to make that unique and variable. And of course, the benefits of using Adobe InDesign. You can really fine tune the colors and the way things are going to show up, any of those fonts and all that spacing, and making sure that everything looks the way that it needs to be. But also, we want to make sure that we're efficient when we're producing those documents, because just like anything else, you start designing beautiful things, the file sizes tend to get very large and tend to be not as efficient as probably they should be. So making sure that we've got processes there that can control that. So whatever the output device that these are that they're going to is efficient in processing those as well. So I do things like, InDesign at the desktop and then InDesign at the server, but giving you options there as far as that composition engine that's making it ready for that print device to be able to output it. And of course, staying inside some of those nice personalized data formats for variable print. And, really the standard today is PDF VT. But you may have heard of some of those legacy ones out there like PPML and VPS and VIP and things like that that are still in the market as well. But not just that, also allowing for those documents to not just be composed for print production, but remember at the beginning I talked about digital production as well. So whether it's a PDF or something else digitally that needs to be composed, having those capabilities there. So a lot of times when I start kind of this conversation, and actually myself as well, I look at it and I'm like, well, InDesign has data merge. So, here we are kind of back to that initial discussion there, about how I can take a design document and kind of merge it with data. And that's great as far as those simple documents and things. But then I start doing more records, or I start having more graphics, or I start needing to do some more advanced functions, and it's just really not built for that. And on the screen is a little quote actually from one of the Adobe scientists. And it's just really not built for that. So when we talk about XMPie, what we're doing is we're creating those files so that they are optimized, so that they can be produced in an efficient manner as you start taking on more of this work. And you can see this was just a little test here. This was a little two-sided postcard. And we ran the seam file, obviously 3 different ways. One was kind of through data merge. And obviously you can see it took a long time, and I don't know how anybody would do 32,000 records in one batch on a desktop. So we actually kind of split it up and only actually managed the time that it was actually processing, but it does take a while. And then we did it on our little desktop tool on one of our laptops, and kind of see the improvement that you've got there. And then we kind of stepped it up to like a single server type environment. And you can see how each time really the processing speed and everything decreased dramatically. And then of course we can go from here as well. So our solution is very, very scalable in that respect. Talking about Adobe and kind of our relationship there. Anything that we're doing for variable print, we work directly inside of Adobe InDesign to drive variability there. But we can also work inside Photoshop. A lot of people like those really dynamic kind of images. So in this example, I think it's names a name on rocks on a beach, but could be in clouds, could be in the sand on a football field, wherever it may be, but that personalized image to really capture some more attention. And then After Effects for videos. So all the great things that we do for personalization for print, we can also do in a digital realm for videos. And then we are actually Adobe's most successful partner with Adobe InDesign Server. So we talked about kind of some of that scalability there and being able to offer server-based solutions as well. And that's where, we keep everything inside the Adobe ecosystem. This quote on the screen that you're looking at now, I think when I put that initial slide up and we talked about, some of the challenges in the industry was the lack of personnel. And so XMPie actually works inside numerous colleges throughout the US and Canada. And inside there, they actually use XMPie, the students do, to kind of work through projects in their classwork. And this was just a quote from one of the professors at University of Houston, and talks about how it's very natural and intuitive if you've got somebody that's used to using Adobe to be able to transition them over to now creating personalized content with XMPie. And so, for that labor pool there, not only can you leverage people who've already gone through school on XMPie, but it's fairly easy to go out there and find people, designers who know how to use Adobe InDesign. And so, having that short learning curve to get over into now creating variable content can be very beneficial. So at this point, I am going to turn it over to Jeremiah. Jeremiah is actually going to show you some hands-on with our desktop tool as far as variable print production, and we'll go from there.
Looks like we should be sharing screen now. So this is a postcard example that I'll share to begin with, and you're likely familiar with tagging something simple like an address block or even a deer to a certain person. This all started by leveraging our plugin. We first linked to the data, which in this case, our sample data had these columns in it. But what you'll notice is we have a lot of other objects to work with in this example. That's because we bring in our data to work with, but then we can apply different logic and functions to items. So the first name came in formatted for Jimmy with a capital J and lowercase, but we used our uppercase function to change that to all caps. We also have a title case. Maybe Jimmy was all lowercase or any combination, but it will look at that and make sure that the case is done properly there. So we've done that in a few different areas. When I go to select this item too, you'll see that it is linking to that value of that upper. But you may notice that when I selected in, that this space appeared here. And what we're doing is we're actually suppressing empty spaces for trailing content. So this address doesn't have a second address item, but it'll automatically bring this up. And then if it does have a second, then it'll appear in all of that. We do, what you'll notice down here is we're also doing some chart work. So this is dynamic and it's actually connecting to a secondary data source. So I have two sets of data in here, and I'm basing that chart on which school is in the data file that they're interested in looking at. So there's some pretty basic contents that you may be familiar with. If I flip through, you'll see some changes. Now, what might have just jumped out to is the entire color changed over here, because beyond just text and graphics changing, we support a variety of other types of content. So text and graphic being up at the top, but tables and charts, as I've mentioned, we can actually bring in entire text files, whether that's like a notepad text file or a Word doc. We can maintain formatting from that Word doc, bring it in. So we could insert in an entire block of text and have a library of different text snippets that we bring in based on the logic. So maybe there's different text for the different types of school in this experience. And we can also put nested variables within there. So we can trigger those too. So if you have different names or values that you want to populate in that text, that can happen too. If I flip back to our first page, you'll see, oh, sorry, beyond just text file, we also do visibility layers and styles. So when you saw that color change, that's actually a style change. So in that case, what I'm doing is based on the school, we're applying a color scheme. So in this case, my background color scheme here is saying that if it sees the medicine school, to use the medicine object style, engineering, the engineering style, and so on. We can also do that with text. So for most of the schools, the white looks really good on the color, but when we get to medicine-based value, this lighter blue, that white would get kind of lost with the smaller font size. It works fine in the larger bold text, but in the smaller it would disappear into the background. So we've also applied a color scheme of the darker blue when it sees that school of medicine. If I flip through, you might have also seen the scholarship option there. When we flip through these, there's one that disappeared. So we have a rule on the visibility. We have this scholarship layer up here that I can turn on and off. And we've applied a visibility rule to that that says if the GPA is greater than 85%, we're going to put that offer across. We're also changing out images here. And then you may also notice over in the left-hand side, this is where we're leveraging Photoshop to put a variable into a graphic. That's all done on the fly through this example. So very cool variability. And then as Katie mentioned, when you go to run this variable data job, instead of it duplicating all these layouts on InDesign spreads and not having an optimized file to send to your RIP, which would need to be processed one by one, we're actually able to output it in a PDF or VDP format that's optimized for your print technology, where it'll process the images that are reused throughout the templates a single time and then reference. So you maintain that production both on the front and the back end. A couple other concepts I'll show is things like business cards and QR codes. We do create barcodes on demand. In this case, we're not using any fonts or anything like that. We're actually using our XMPie barcode function, and we have a variety of different barcodes that we support in there. So the QR codes are very popular, but the postnet codes, data matrix for sorting equipment, the different code font barcodes, all of that can get done. So we can build out through our generator how you want that to all get strung out. So there are vCard functions where we're actually grabbing the different variables that are placed into this card to create that mapping, so that when somebody scans it, it prompts to save that in their phone. Similar to the postcard, we've just brought in a data file and we've placed it into the document. We've mapped all those values where we need them to be. You may notice there's some different colors next to some of these content objects here. That comes into play because we do have a link to our ecosystem. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. Another quick example I wanted to show is something outside of like a mailing, something that might be a little more transactional. So things like statements. And again, we're using multiple data sources here and creating a table in this space. We're putting in our address barcode. We're putting in a data matrix for sorting here. When I flip through these records, I have a single page for this layout because it's a very simple piece of information. It's only a single row of information. And then I also have some blank space. So I've placed an image in there. As I go through a couple different records, here's an example where there's more rows and I don't have enough room to place that image in. So we don't. And then if I go to another record, now I've actually created additional pages on demand to allow that table to flow from the first page into the second page, and even onto a third page, where now I have more white space area where I can place additional assets to fill out that space. So dynamically, we can really create a lot of cool content that again can be optimized for your print equipment. I think that's a good time to pass it back to Katie.
All right, thanks, Jeremiah. Okay. So Jeremiah, I think, mentioned something a moment ago when he was talking about, saving things for an ecosystem. Well, kind of the next step in our ecosystem and our evolution was being able to offer things more self-service through a portal. And so I hear all these different words when people talk about web to print or web portals or e-commerce or, kind of all these different names that really kind of mean the same thing. But I think more so kind of what we're talking about is really, having the capability to do things more self-service through a web portal. And whoops, let me go back here. So a lot of times when people think about e-commerce, e-commerce is really a great way to be able to capture things and be able to collect payment. Traditional websites, so if people set things up through like Shopify or a BigCommerce or something like that, they lend themselves very well to things that are more inventory type items, static, don't have a lot of customization to it. Because they use things like generic product pictures. If they do need some personalization, it's usually kind of fill in the blank where somebody just describes what they want. And for print, especially on the back end now, somebody has to take those instructions and really create the artwork. And then they kind of send communication back and forth with proofs, things like that. So it's a good way to be able to capture kind of that initial order. But it doesn't really save you a whole lot of time in the workflow aspect of it because you're still having to go through all those, steps as far as the creation of the output and then again going back and setting things up in a pre-press format for production. So what we try to do is do something that's a little bit more automated. So being able to take some of those steps out of the process. And so, if we do have things that need customization, being able to offer that customization directly inside the portal. So now we can put things up like a business card, kind of like Jeremiah showed you, and allow an individual more of a templated type product where they can go in, they can interact with it, go ahead and view automatically kind of the proof and accept that on screen go ahead and check out exactly how they would want to see, but then also be able to optimize things on the back end. So when that business card comes through, now we're not having to send that over to pre-press to get them to set it up for production. We could have that kind of automatically go through that pre-press workflow and really save on all of that time. And that's where you're going to get your efficiencies. That's where you're going to be cost effective in producing that type of work. And so something would look more like this, having that more templated type product with ways that I could go through and customize. And then that automation story we were talking about is so important. I hear it a lot. People are always looking at ways that they can become more efficient and do more with less. And, it helps all the way around. In that labor aspect, helps in that turnaround time where people wanted it yesterday. So really kind of reducing all of those tasks. So, now we can take that order and automatically run it through a preset workflow for that particular item. We can set things up where, maybe if there are things like business cards, we gather a whole bunch together so that it makes sense before we actually impose it and get it set up for production. And then, even be able to take it a little bit step further and maybe even create some rules and some business logic around some of the things that are coming in as well, just for best practices. We also see that there's a lot of new applications on the market. So looking at kind of differentiating yourself and being able to offer additional functions. We start seeing things like embellishments, kind of the golds and silvers. We look at things where people are wanting to do things on colored stocks and be able to use white to stand out there. We look at, even, specialty inks like neons and fluorescent inks and being able to do more specialty type effects on them. And then, being able to take that the step further. So now maybe we need to put something that's more of a link to a digital component for tracking and an additional customization there. Well, the good news is anything that we just talked about could be offered through a web portal like StoreFlow. And so, looking at our product, a lot of this I've kind of touched on, but we really identified 6 key features inside of anything that would be an e-commerce platform for print and personalized type products. And of course, similar to any kind of website, making sure that we do have a 5-star or very easy customer experience. Also being able to set up different portals for different unique situations. So larger customers maybe deserve their own unique site with their own products that's branded towards them. And maybe, also being able to have some portals that are more direct to consumer to capture additional revenue that you normally wouldn't grab. Adobe is always key to our ecosystem and making sure that anything that has been provided to you really stays in that Adobe workflow so that you're producing output that's what the customer expects. And then of course the kind of that workflow aspect to it as well for all the pre-press setup. And then being able to deploy things very easily, but also give you some flexibility to go in and maybe, if you do want to kind of make some customization to it. And then of course, being able to interact inside your tech stack and your other systems to be able to create more streamlined, more automated type workflows via APIs. All right, Jeremiah, I am turning it back over to you.
Okay, so here's an example of one of our storefronts. It's quite easy to brand these for different clients that you may have. We have a back end where you can change out logos and color scheme and banners. You can set all the categories for the different products and different search terms so they can easily get to products. We also have the account information and profile, which may have certain values in there, like numbers, addresses, and things like that. So when you do go into an item like a business card that needs customization, I'm actually populating these values like first, last, title, office, mobile, email, all from my personal profile. Now I still give the end user the ability to go in and make edits to that, and they'll get a preview right there. Same thing on multiple pages. They can scroll through to look at those. We do support multi-step processes. So instead of having to scroll for a mile with many different settings that might need to be done, we can collapse and expand different areas. So like location or photo uploader. You could have either a gallery of images to select from if you offer different logos, or the clients that you have different logos. You can also edit, where you can rotate and crop the image as well to make it fit. And then you can select different options available for that type of card. So whether it's, lamination, different media types, different packaging options, single, double-sided, and this can all interact with the pricing model for these items. We offer an option to approve the proof. So we get a higher quality version of the dynamic product here. And we'll actually go ahead and record that the proof was approved at that step. Since embellishments was mentioned, gold overlays, things like that can be worked in, and we have a 3D visualizer for that. So again, we have different highlight colors that could be selected, the different customization steps that may be available. And you can see like reflectivity in that overlay. So you can really kind of show what stepping into one of those embellishments might look like. The user can also grab and kind of move that item around. Really cool capability. Other items that are popular out there are static forms. So, you may have pre-printed items and make it really quick to add quantities to the cart. Go ahead and do that. The other thing we do is ad hoc job upload. So things like different booklets and options for that. So we could have a drag and drop capability here, or a click and browse methodology. We support bringing in the Office document types and PDFs. You can go to a multi-page view where you see each of the pages individually, where you can then move pages around. You could delete pages. And then when you start adding capabilities to the product, we can give that representation. So like on binding, if you're going to offer comb binding and the different colors you offer, you'll get a nice representation of how that looks. And even if I maybe wanted to come into this page and force it single-sided, I can do that, and you'll see the binding will flip on the other edge, showing that that's going to stay single-sided. Same thing with the proofing steps and all that from there. I'm going to flip into a different storefront. So here's a different look and feel. You'll see some different color schemes, different banner. From here, we support another neat capability around kits. So you could have several items all in one order flow. So in this case, we're including a hat, a mug, an apron, banner, a promo poster, and a coffee card. Now you can choose different quantities for these items, or you can have them hard set under quantities. I go ahead and continue forward. Now I get into my customization steps for this. So I can choose what type of banner size, the different images available. So, You could have a library of options there, or you could allow them to upload, change out some of the text, change the location. All of that can be done, and then it's ordered in a single flow with all those items and be able to be fulfilled as one package. Kind of the next level of our ecosystem is around our campaigns. So beyond just print, we can support digital touch points as well, whether that's personal URLs, emails, things like that. So this is an example of a new location opening. So where a print invitation could be sent out to a mailing list, and that'll have a QR code on it, which will drive them to a personal URL to register for the event, and we'll create a coupon ticket for them to join. If they don't fill out the form, they could get an email reminder to go visit that page to fill out. But we would do the address, the date of the opening, start and end times, and you can actually look at each of the touch points and see what a preview of each of those might look like. So this will be the print invitation that'll come up with the QR code. So we get our preview there. We're also doing a map for that location with an integration with Loker. And again, that personal URL. If I click on a different touch point, like the registration, this will bring us to a web point. And you'll see the new Buffalo branch, it's personalized to the user, all that gets done in one nice flow. So here it's populating with values for that, so then they can just choose a couple different options or comments, and then count in, and then be able to download the admission ticket. So it's a really cool flow that takes you into some different areas of the business. I covered a good range of products there. Products that we could show. Still have anybody else on the panels?
Hello.
Oh, there you are.
I'm still listening and watching as well.
All right. Well, thanks, Jeremiah. So to kind of conclude here, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of reinforce, what's nice about our platform of solutions is the fact that you really can start anywhere and kind of scale anywhere that you want to. And we don't just mean scale size-wise. So I think Jeremiah showed at the beginning of the call how you can start with print, just using our desktop plugin for InDesign. That's kind of where that creative tools and our ecosystem really starts. And then we can grow upwards from there. So you saw some of those speed tests, and as you need more collaboration and more features and functionalities, you do more work, we definitely are there to be able to support that growth with you. But also across application areas. So, you start doing a lot of personalization work. And then that kind of sometimes will lend itself over into that web to print area where people start to want to do some of the personalization ordering on their own. And so whether it be personalizing a template for one individual, or even potentially being able to upload a list to a template for production for mailing purposes, absolutely gives you that capability and flexibility as well. And then Jeremiah also just touched on kind of some of the unique things that we don't think about all the time when we're in the print world. And that really is that, you know, print is just one touch point inside a marketing application campaign. So being able to offer up, you know, as growth goes, some of those digital touch points as well. So now you're capturing that full marketing advantage and really kind of creating yourself as more of a valued advisor for all of their marketing efforts. We didn't show you any of the videos today, but you know, definitely having that capability to do video production as well as one of those digital touch points and create really personalized communications there. And then really that marketing automation piece is really the glue that kind of ties all of that together. So, you know, as far as, you know, getting your business ready and kind of helping grow that business, XMPie is really there to support you, kind of protect your business, be able to help diversify your offerings, and be able to automate some of those processes. And, you know, you don't necessarily just look at us, but you can also go to our webpage, and we do have case studies on there as well for other clients that we've helped kind of navigate these waters. At that, I'm gonna just see if there's any questions here at the end, and we can kind of open up there.
Well, of course,
Michael?
we were monitoring people throughout the presentation. By the way, a fantastic job, Katie and Jeremiah. Amazing product, by the way. A lot of our members are using XMPie, and I really encourage those of you on the call. We had fluctuating people coming in and out throughout the call, but I encourage you to look at those case studies because they truly are really beneficial in helping seeing just all the capabilities of this product. But we do have some time. We still have about 14 minutes. If there are any questions at all, just use the raise your hand button or come on the call or put it in the chat. If not, I'm assuming that the job that you guys did was so spectacular that everyone understands and they're ready to start implementing the most advanced form of XMPie tomorrow.
Well, thanks, Michael, and thanks to the rest of the group that joined in. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My name again is Katie Fisher with XMPie. And then we can definitely set up a one-to-one conversation as well.
Well, thank you very much, Scott and Sean for, oh, by the way, Sean does ask, will XMPie be still owned by Xerox going forward?
Well, I mean, that's a question people above me know more than me, or maybe not. We actually were purchased by XMPie in 2000 or by Xerox in 2006. So it has been an 18-year relationship with Xerox. About 2 years ago, they did push us off into our own company again. So we still are under Xerox Holdings, but you know, definitely kind of on our own separate P&L and accounting. So who knows what the future holds.
But you know, being your own and a nice little island is sometimes nice because when you have a huge company like Xerox or any of the other major, you know, service providers, it can be overwhelmingly bureaucratic. So I think that what was always so nice about XMPie, because I've been involved in this industry for a very long time, and what was really exciting about XMPie is the niche orientation that it has and the ability to really provide unique solutions very quickly without being encumbered by, you know, an infrastructure that's a little bit overwhelming. So let's hope you keep that little spy agency within a, you know,
we do too. We enjoy it. It's, you know, a great place to be inside a big company, but kind of on our own island and control our own destiny. So yes.
Well, I thought that the presentation was awesome. And gentlemen, thank you for your thanks for our panelists. And until next time.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.